Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. My next guest has been speaking out on the plight of Christians in Iraq and Syria for years now. Joining me to discuss the state of Christianity in Iraq and the ongoing persecution, as well as whether the new political landscape in Washington is a cause for hope, is Father Benedict Kiely. He's the founder of Nazarene.org. So, Father Keily, you have been traveling in Iraq. Tell me what you've seen.
We went, myself and Edward Penton, the great correspondent of National Catholic Register and EWTN, went to Erbil about 7 weeks ago, when we also went outside to the newly liberated towns and villages to see the destruction, which is really demonic. Empty villages, burnt out churches, shot altars, crosses destroyed, defaced. You see the satanic hatred of the cross and the despair still of the Christians. In fact, one of the nuns told me that it's worse now. They've seen the destruction now, and they feel even more despair, and they may not go back.
Yeah, well, that's the real question. How can this community remain intact? They're not safe. They're moderately safe now, but there's nothing left. I mean, the place is a ghost town. It's like going into a place that's been razed or just devastated. There's not even working facilities in many places.
There's nothing. There's no electricity. There's no water. It is literally a ghost town. You feel the ghosts in a sense. And yes, it's very hard to know what the future will bring, because the one word that we heard again and again and again was security. Who will keep these Christians safe? They were betrayed by their neighbors. People that they'd lived with in peace for many, many years turned on them. And that's a terrible thing to think of going back to that situation.
What is your organization, Nazarene.org, attempting to do?
Well, apart from, we give a lot of our money to aid to the church in need, which is feeding and housing, and that is essential. I was told by a figure in the Archdiocese of Erbil that the money may run out within about a month for food and housing. But also we're trying now to encourage microfinancing, jobs. I mean, that is one of the things that will keep people. If you give them a job, if they can start to have little businesses. So, for example, one of the things we're supporting is 10 ladies have 10 sewing machines, and they're making tote bags. And, I mean, who wouldn't want to buy a tote bag made by an Iraqi Christian? So if we can get them to this country without import duty, one of the things we have to think about. But then in a year's time, we're going to cut the salary off and say, you're on your own now. So that culture of dependence is not instilled in them. So little things like that. We're going to try and buy a water truck for 3 villages. Just very small things. But if they have a job, they'll stay. If they don't, it's impossible. But they must be secure.
You were at this World Summit in Defense of Christians recently in Washington, D.C. The Vice President spoke. He said that the administration, the Trump administration, is going to make Christian persecution a centerpiece of foreign policy. You were happy to hear that, but
I was
thrilled.
Happy to hear it, and there's definitely a new atmosphere. We must thank God for that. We were not even really allowed to speak about Christian persecution, and we certainly were not allowed to name who the persecutors were. The Vice President was very clear, and he quoted the President. It's radical Islamic terrorism. But yes, to say that it's a foreign policy priority, we need to see some action. I know we're only early into the administration, but the whole mess to do with that, the so-called Muslim ban and everything, Christians were going to be prioritized, now they're not, and they are victims of genocide. Vice President Pence said they are victims of genocide. Then we must make victims of genocide a priority. We must. It's a moral duty. Only those who are so politically correct could argue with that.
Yeah, and at present, there's nothing on paper because of the holdup of the Muslim ban, it wasn't a Muslim ban. No. It was a freeze on immigration from certain Muslim countries.
It wasn't a Muslim. It wasn't a ban, and it wasn't against Muslims. It was against certain countries.
Right, and that reached the beleaguered Christians as well.
Exactly. No one
could carve out for them ended up being caught in the legal system.
Exactly. So they have great hope. I mean, we asked deliberately every single person we met, what do you think of President Trump? And universally, they like him, they trust him, they hope. They all said he's a strong man. They like strong men. We mustn't disappoint them.
Open Doors USA found that 2016 was the largest year for Christian persecution. Some 90,000 died for their faith. What is happening? Why do you think those numbers are so high?
Vice President Pence said that Christians are under siege all over the world. That's an interesting kind of analogy, including in the so-called free world. We're under siege. We're getting more and more subtle persecution, or not so subtle. I made a mistake. I had a strip torn off me by a priest in Iraq when I spoke about persecution in the West, and he said, "You haven't had your throat slit yet," which is true. It reminds us that we're still free, but I don't know what the answer is, Raymond. I can't answer you. It's not good TV, but I can't answer you.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is very smart moves politically, geopolitically, providing the relief you need, and prayer and real support. I mean, these people need real support, and the presence of Christians from the West going in and helping them, which doesn't happen often.
I heard from a senior figure in the administration, the Trump administration, that Christians are not really a priority. And he blamed the church, and that's worrying. He blamed the church that we were not making it a priority enough, and that's perhaps, I think there's some truth to that. We're not beating this. We may have a prayer once every Sunday, every couple of weeks, but it isn't really affecting most people. And I think we've got to make it a priority, probably for the rest of our lives.
Tell us about Nazarene.org. What you're doing now. What do you want people to do?
Continue to support us. You can find us on Facebook, Nazarene.org, and people are being very generous, helping us. You can order different items to help the persecuted Christians, and then all that money goes, except for the cost of administration, all the money goes to help them directly. So we're very grateful for all the support we've received, especially from you, and we hope to continue to help them for a very long time ahead.
Father Keely, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Raymond.
Great to see you. You can visit Nazarene.org to find out more about how you can help the persecuted Christians in Iraq and Syria. Well, that is all the time we have for now. Until next week, the show continues on Facebook and Twitter. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. I'm always updating it. The links are at RaymondArroyo.com. Be sure to join us next week. Ralph Reed will be here to talk public policy and the freedom of religion. Until then, we'll be scouting the world over for all that is seen and unseen. On behalf of the staff and crew of EWTN News, thanks for watching. I'm Raymond Arroyo. Bye now.